Hiya, this is Jim Partridge. I'm a mapper and modder, and this is map 5 of Deep Down, which I built. So, the concept for this section was really to go all out with the mines, but also I was looking for kind of. I wanted to do a big ending, which we'll get to, but I also wanted some good, solid Half-Life gameplay before we got there. And this gave me the best opportunity to be able to do that without kind of a big concept or anything complicated in the way. Basically, I had the ability to simply move through environments to really enjoy that kind of that progression that happens that we're looking for in a Half-Life map. Quite a lot of players got lost in this section, which isn't great, really. I did try and add some of these coloured walls, which it was my hope would give them sort of something a bit more to orientate themselves with, but it didn't really work out that well. It's just because all these tunnels are so similar, and this is actually just a figure of 8. This section here with it's just a big square with a sort of a crossover tunnel here that's got a grate in between, but it really confused a lot of people. So there we go. As we move through this map, I'm going to be collecting all of the bugs, just so you can see where they all are if you're interested. And there is an achievement built into the game for getting all of them, so I'm interested to see if that will actually fire by the time I get them all. Given what we've seen before, there are some bugs in this game. I quite like this section. I wanted like a really high up, never-ending kind of shaft above, just to give the whole place a bit more scale. This room was kind of boring. It was literally just boxed across the roof there, so I just broke through the roof and went straight upwards. It's maybe a good lesson. Is that if you have a room that feels boxy or whatever, just do something interesting like this. I'd punch through the floor and do a never-ending drop or something like that, just to kind of space it out a bit. This section with Alex disappearing, I did for several reasons. One, I wanted to go back to proper standard old school Half-Life 2 gameplay at this point. I didn't want Alex to be in the way, and I knew that we were going to be doing some pretty funky jumps coming up, and I knew that Alex wasn't capable of doing them, so I had to get rid of her. And so much of this map she's not present. Also, I think it gives you I don't know how emotionally invested players got with this map, but I was hoping it would give them sort of something to be a little more emotionally invested about. I quite like these being all the way up here, and the way the bodies fall down. That's quite fun. And also I put a bonus up here, just because I could. Nothing particularly interesting. So we've got some bugs down here to keep an eye on as well, that we can pick up. The adding of the bugs and the achievement and that kind of thing, really, I mean, obviously I'm copying Episode 2 gameplay, but it was really just to add an extra level of gameplay to it, or maybe to give the level a bit of longevity. And, it's been said by others that it's a bit of a cheap way of getting replay value out of a map, but I'd rather have it than not have it. Have these kind of these little extras, and hopefully there's always something else to find for somebody who fancies playing it again. I know people like to play replay mods from time to time, and it would be nice. I always think it's nice if there's something new to see that you haven't seen before, perhaps. Okay, so I quite like this idea that I had about the having that drop away. I haven't really seen that before. Just shoot underneath something to have the floor drop away so you can move through it. That's one of my... I don't know, I was quite happy with that. I think as you move through, I think one thing I always try and do is to try and show players stuff that they have never seen before. So I'm always sort of trying to find a new way of doing something. That's where this payoff for this kind of device comes in handy there. As soon as they hear that noise, hopefully they understand what's going to happen. If not, they got hurt. For those that were looking, crossbows in there, in case you didn't know. It actually comes in really handy in a minute. It's there as a kind of an added bonus for those that find it, but it's actually quite handy, and yeah, becomes quite a critical tool, especially against these guys. So we've got a few up there. There's a few on top of here, a few bugs on top of here. If you don't get them at this point, you can't get them, from what I can tell, unless you if you head down there, because obviously it's a point of no return. If you chuck a grenade up, I don't think it really works. I think the grenade tends to roll off and it's difficult to get to, so that's the time to get them. This section here, I kind of had this idea of them, people that have seen Jurassic Park Part 3. There's a section where they go through the I can't remember the name of the flying dinosaur, but they have those big pterodactyls. That's it. And there's a section with pterodactyls, and they've got these kind of kind of caged walkways, and I quite like that idea. I was going to do a bit more with these and have these caged walkways and have these flying ant lines kind of running all over the tops of them and around you, so you could shoot them from underneath. Never got that far into the mapping process, so I ended up kind of combining them with this hanging puzzle. These are just a single restricted. Basically that's a prop physics. It has a ball socket connection to this beam up here, and those ropes are simply added for look and feel, or just to make it look the way it looks. The idea is that there was a bridge here before and it's kind of collapsed. I think a lot of people quite like this. I haven't really seen many prop physics kind of dangling platform things before. I don't think I've seen it done, so I was quite happy with the fact that once again that was something original. And then what happened was the acid ant line that was up there fell to the bottom of the shaft and by accident one day, and just started attacking me from the bottom, and I thought the effect was so cool with this acid coming up, and he was so accurate, and it really sort of made you hesitate as you went across, so I kept him in there. It's a happy accident, as some of these things tend to work out. Okay, so now we're going to be moving across here, and you know, it's a fairly precarious jump, but it's doable, and that dropped away. I did that on purpose. When I was working on a Left 4 Dead 2 map, I had a so that piece dropping down, sorry, I was really interrupted there by the phone, so I had to cut it and come back. That piece dropping down, it was originally, I did something like that for a Left 4 Dead map where the whole team jumped across. Obviously you got the 4 survivors, and they all jumped across a series of lifts, and as they jumped off the last lift and down, there was a trigger which made the lift fall to the bottom of the lift shaft. The player was never in any danger, same as what happened here. As you jumped out of that first section into the second one, it triggered you leaving a lift, leaving the trigger, which basically made the thing fall. There was no chance of that ever falling with the player on it. It just simply added an extra level of, just ups the ante a little bit, if you know what I mean. It just adds the pressure to the player, thinking that, oh, I better get off this one or it might drop at any moment. I don't know how many people noticed the fact that it does actually fall, whether they were facing the right way, but that was the idea. Okay, moving on. So we get to the section with the floor turret. The floor turret itself was something I wanted to put in simply because it was a bit of gameplay that we had seen from the original Half-Life 2, but we hadn't seen it since. It was something, obviously it was something from Half-Life 1 that I think they brought forward and did a new version of, but we hadn't actually seen it anywhere since. Now, the idea was originally that you would use these spools as stepping stones to get to the grenades at the far end, so that you could then throw a grenade in here and blow it up. The problem with that idea is that you can just put this in front of the turret and it stops you from getting shot. So it didn't really work. It wasn't the best worked out puzzle in the world. And also the player could already actually have grenades on them, so you know, it's another way they could shortcut it or whatever. But I mean, it does work. If you throw a grenade in there, it will destroy it, and that was the original intention. But it just shows you a bit more playtesting probably would have revealed that that wasn't going to work. But unfortunately, I couldn't think of another way to make it work. So it would have simply been this boring anyway. The vent at the top here, some people found this quite interesting. My idea on this was that you would break it open, and the only way to get the goodies out would be to throw a grenade in. Others, as we have seen on some playthroughs, found a more interesting way of obtaining the goodies, mainly by stacking these things up and getting their noses in there. But the other thing is as well is there's a bug in there, so if you're collecting bugs, that was the idea, was you would be able to zap the bug too with a grenade. Okay, moving on. These boards here were meant to slow you down, so that you couldn't just run straight out of the room, and that the turret would kill you if you tried. Once again, it sort of works. It certainly works to slow you down anyway. You can't just run out of the room. It's just a bit more of a gate to slow the player. This firefight here turned out really well. I had no idea. I was simply trying to do, to fill up this space and do a bit of fighting. And it's triggered by breaking any one of these 3 boards. So having this physics prop in between kind of makes things a bit more interesting. And also, I think having a destructible cover makes it a bit more interesting as well. So they'll chuck grenades down, these boards break, and slowly but surely the cover that you had is going to start disappearing. I quite like that. It worked quite well. I recommend it. Hey, that did not go very well. These guys I find quite tough. This is quite a tough fight, I think. But I think it's because it's on an incline. They've got the high ground, and I think... Damn. As I say, it's on an incline. They've got the high ground. Oh, we're all the way back here. Oh well. Probably one of my less good save games there. What I'll do is I will clip forward. Okay. See if we can do a bit better this time around. Yeah, I find these AR2 troops, in the right circumstances, they can hit pretty hard. We see, time and again, I think we talked about this earlier, where troops just run out and run straight up to you. You've got a billion of them and they're everywhere. I think that the Combine can be actually a lot more challenging than that. That's one of my little bugbears at the moment that I'm sort of ranting on about on various people's feedback threads. That the battle should be trickier, and you can make it trickier and more challenging by the environment in which the battle takes place in, and by putting the player at the bottom of the hill, or having the player need to advance upon the Combine changes the whole thing dramatically. I think quite often that people often think of the assault from Half-Life 2 near the lighthouse, where the Combine land and then they come in and they get right up close and personal with the player. And that's okay from time to time, but I do think that the Combine do a lot better when you keep the Combine in place and the player has to fight their way up to the Combine. It makes it a much more interesting battle, in my opinion. I'm giving up on the... I will show you where all of the bugs are, but all the grubs, but I'm not going to continue with the achievement because I've missed a few now. Anyway, there's a couple on the wall there. They're tough ones to get because of this sniper guy. Now, this sniper guy is a bit of a different setup than we've seen before, I think, because here I have to run away from the sniper as opposed to closing on them. I cannot kill him with a grenade or anything because he's completely cut off from there. So the idea is to zigzag your way away from it. I'm sure most people work that out and try not to get hit like I just did. I gave you the rocket launcher at this point because you can then stick a rocket up his butt and kill the guy. I think most people who come up against a bad guy, I think you should be able to kill the bad guy in one way or another. So that was the idea behind that. I'm not sure how many people actually realised that they could kill him, but there you go. For those that want to know, here is where the third random item generator is stored. You can stock up here if you want to before we hit the zombie fest coming up. Boring. Come on, give me some batteries. Yeah, this was one of those areas where you look at it and think, you know, I've got this little bit of space at the back of this map here, what can I do with it? And whenever I see a space in my map, or a large brush that's just, a big brush of no clip with one side, I wonder whether I can put something else interesting in there, even if it's just a little corner or a little cupboard or something, just to make the exploration that little bit more interesting. Okay, this has been bugging out a little recently, so I'm just going to remove that before I even fly through it. It should break on impact, or even just before impact, before you ever touch it. The impression is that you smash through the boards, but actually I'm breaking them long before you hit them. But everything happens so quickly that it all looks quite convincing. So lots more bugs up here on the walls. Tough ones to hit, but the pistol can manage it because it's a sniper rifle, remember? There we go. And with this area, this is really, really a good example of modular gaming, I think, in my opinion. All I did was I took, 128 by 128 squares of these wall type bits here. You can see up here this corrugated wall, created a window piece, created a wall piece, and then just stuck them around, made buildings out of them, and painted them different colours. The floor panels are just 128 by 128 broken out into, different detail brushes. The whole thing's turned into a detail brush because you can see through it, so there's no point. With bits of fencing in between. And then you literally just start plonking them around, and if you don't like it, you delete a piece, and you group them together, and then you just delete bits out, and you keep going. The idea of I've already spoken about, I think, the idea of the buildings clinging to the side of the walls was from episode 2 in the mines. There's a bit when you come up in a lift, it's a really, really long way up, and they've got these kind of structures clinging to the sides of the walls. So I kind of just took it from that and just took it to a further degree. And then I had to think, okay, well, I've got these buildings, so I built this kind of area, and I kind of knew how I was going to work my way around it. And I thought, well, what can I put in all these buildings? And it just turned into a bit of a zombie area. And each of these sections, I just added various bits of gameplay, so that none of it's particularly challenging. This isn't a hard bit of the game, but it was the bit that people remarked on the most and they enjoyed the most, I think, just because there are so many little different elements of fun stuff going on. But I literally just took it room by room, so in my opinion, in your mod, just look at each room and just think of each room as a single individual game on its own. So the game there was, how many zombies can I destroy before I have to enter the room? This I shamelessly stole from episode 2. I just nicked it straight out of the map. There's that exact zombie who jumps up at you. Incidentally, it's just using a hint node to do that. If you want to know, just drop me a message and I'll send it to you. Send you a map with that in. You can, pop around and take a look in this room from here. I just quite like the idea of being able to sneak a look. You can even take the zombie out before you even enter the room. I think at one point I had a combine guy in here, and you could attack him through this window, but I saved that for a bit for the building further up later on. I like the idea of being able to get the drop on the bad guys by, taking a shot at them from an area they wouldn't expect. I think it makes the player feel powerful and cool. Okay, I quite like so that whole platform and ladder there is in case you don't make this jump, or you accidentally cock it up and fall off, so you can get back up again and try again. I like this jump for some reason. Don't know why. Jumping down to here feels a bit like a platformer. I think I'll have more of this kind of jumping in my future maps. It feels, I don't know, solid and cool. I've no idea why. Go figure. Some things are just pleasurable. I like the flares. This particular flare is not an ordinary flare. It's it's just the model of a flare with the entity of a flare attached to it, parented to it. So it's like a physics object. What it means is it will burn forever until you pick it up, and then it starts burning on a timer, and then it will finish. But what it means is you can light your maps up with them. That ladder is there as well for if you fall in, you can shortcut and come back up here quickly. I wanted something to do while the player was waiting for the lift to come down, so I added this. Most players saw it and enjoyed it. It was weird. It's an unexpected place. Some players said that they had they really took them by surprise to find that in there, and they were quite I don't know, made them jump, which is quite nice. That was an unexpected shock for some people. Okay, heading back up. So the scale of this area I really like, and the way it's lit. I lifted that Combine light directly out of a episode 2 map. I think it creates a really, really big light, and if you can light everything from one direction, you can create some really nice shadows, as you can see down there on the walls, and off the water. It creates some really nice reflections and some really nice shadows there. Not sure if cube maps are working properly in here, but I probably could go back and check, but I haven't done that. So here I just like to do this sometimes. I've seen it in some of my other maps where you just let people get on with it and just start a fight somewhere, so the player can watch, they can join in if they want to, but the player's really not in any threat. I accidentally let a grenade off in this room, and it blew the glass out of the ceiling and out of the wall. I really liked it, so I thought, Zombine would be good at this point, and have him pull the grenade at a particular moment. And once again, a lot of these gameplay ideas and a lot of the stuff that happens in these maps comes from playing it. Literally, I'm going to chuck some NPCs in and see what happens, and see what the outcome is. And quite often, you'll get some unexpected behaviour, and you'll sort of twig yourself onto something cool. So this guy was meant to start. He's sort of the remnant of a fast zombie, almost an arena. I was going to have hundreds of them running across here in all different places, and the players shooting them and stuff. Which sounds cool, but in reality, it was actually really boring. They moved quite slowly, and they didn't really pose much of a threat to the player. So I just had the one just to sort of make you a bit nervous. I think if you came out on here and it was coming for you, I think you'd be a bit like. Hopefully, it caused a few people to pause for a moment and go, "Oh shit." This section I quite like, just in the fact that you're sort of doing a sneaky one around the corner, and then you get the opportunity to get the drop on the Combine. Yeah, I think I mentioned before, I quite like areas where you're able to do this. It reminded me a little of the, I think someone mentioned the shotgun jump from Daylight, where you jump across the chasm through the window and grab the shotgun and blow the Combine away. Once again, because the Combine's not paying any attention to you, he doesn't know you're there, so you get the opportunity to get the drop on him in a sneaky way. And that's and we sort of come to the end here. I quite like the idea of you sort of start from the bottom, but you don't. But you end up at the bottom. You climb all the way back out again, and then come all the way back up. It's a bit like Daylight in that respect, in the fact that you head down to the bottom and then you slowly crawl your way back out again. And actually, these the most popular area in Daylight was an area which involved you climbing out. Climbing out of a hole, basically. These areas where you're heading up vertically are always very popular, and I really like this kind of gameplay. I think it makes for a very interesting environment. This guy spawns far too late. We'll talk about the rolling pipe in a second. Some people notice that you can actually see him spawn, and there's some no clip there, or no draw there, which is bad. We didn't do the bugs. We should go back and do the bugs in a second. The pipe is a very, very old idea I had a long, long time ago, and it's something I've been meaning to do for ages, and I just didn't get the opportunity to do it. I've had a test map that had it working for ages, and I got to this point, and I thought I really wanted to finish off this area in style, so I thought it was a good opportunity. As you come along here, there's a couple of bugs up here, which you might not have spotted before. But yeah, so, you know, obviously it's completely ripped off Indiana Jones, but it does make for quite a good bit of gameplay. And I quite like these environmental kind of puzzles. And there's 2 more bugs up there. For using for you know, fine, NPCs are great and that kind of thing, but there's a lot you can do in the Source engine to make environmental puzzles with gravity and all that kind of thing. So you've got some bugs in there. Some more here. And then we get through to our arena section. Now, lots of people commented that this looks like it should be an antlion guard arena. And it should be. That's exactly how I designed it. That was fully my intention when I built this. And it probably would have been quite a good one. But when I started playing it, and actually started playtesting this stuff for myself, it was really boring. It was just, you know, we've played an antlion guard arena so many times. It's just dull. So I thought, well, I'll do something else. And I don't know if it's any better or worse, but it's not expected necessarily. Which is, you know, I worry more about players, you know, just going through the motions, because, you know, that's I don't know, it's just not very interesting. Oh, just died on his own. Okay. I find this section really difficult. A lot of people said, oh, that was really easy, but I really struggled. It's no fun when you know what's coming out of this pipe. I found this really, really... Oh, damn it. This is going to be tough. I find this fight really hard. And I don't know whether it's just me, but I think it really highlights just how tough Combine soldiers with AR2s can be if you get the right setup. As I said, I knew they were coming, so I had to drop on them and chuck a grenade over there. If you don't, I think once they get out into this arena and you get these dips and they're moving around, they can actually be pretty tough enemies. Or maybe I'm just crap at playing this game. I don't know. So this section, as I say, I built this big arena and I ended up having the player move through it, but I kind of doubled it up by having them go across this bridge as well, so you sort of get 2 lots of gameplay out of one area. I would probably have done more with it, but I was running out of time, and this area got a bit frustrating, to be honest. But that seems to be the story all the way through. I'm not sure if many people realise that you can punt this along and use it as cover, and that was my intention for the gameplay of this area. But I'm not sure if many people really understood that. So it allows you to close the distance on him and then take him out. And yes, that is a usable gun for those that didn't try it. At least it should be. Maybe not. There's no difference to the guns on the in the first map, but there you go. For some reason, it doesn't work. Anyway, some more bugs. This next section, I like ladder jumps. I always remember that first ladder jump in Half-Life 2 where you had to jump to the elevator and you saw the scientist hanging off of it and then he fell down the shaft. I always loved that. So I wanted to do a ladder jump. It's not hugely interesting, but it is what it is. And also, once again, you're sort of climbing your way out of a dire situation. So moving upwards all the time makes you feel like you're kind of making progress back to the surface in some way, I think. bugs here. This is pretty much where you should be finishing up with your bug achievement. I think the count might be slightly out, because if you came from map 4 into map 5, the ones at the beginning get duplicated, because they were in the old map, and if you didn't kill them when you were in the old map, they'll be in the new map. So yeah, I don't know, if the count's slightly out, it might be slightly easier than I expected it to be. Okay, so now we are up into our new area, and we instantly see this blue light, and the idea was to let you know that you were heading into Combine territory now, and that's reinforced by the effect we've just seen, which I stole directly from an episode 2 map, which is the Combine sort of burst. There are varying levels of burst that the Combine Advisor can do. That is probably one of the more minor ones. As we get closer, the tremors get worse. Lots of people like this. I wanted to use this. I wanted a bad guy that I could use in a different way, and the Combine Striders in Spider mode were more interesting than in Tool mode, in my opinion. So I thought I would create some tunnels for them to move through. The tunnels ended up being huge because Combine Striders are a pain in the arse, quite frankly. The fact that it moves along over the top of you, I can't remember how I came across that idea, but I just thought it was a great way to introduce it. We haven't really seen them from that angle much, and to have one just kind of thundering, over the top of you and not really paying attention to you, I thought was quite fun as well. It's got its own. They know stuff's up. They're all on the move, but they don't know where you are or where you're coming from. This can be a bit of a tough fight. Depends if they whop out the auto attack. In this case, they didn't. But yeah, you get some of those Combine energy balls flying around. It can be a bit of a tough one. There we go, like that. And what was interesting is these are fixed in place, and I can't remember. No, they don't. These don't punt with the gravity gun, but if they get hit by an energy ball, that'll fall down. So you kind of had the situation where once again the cover was starting to fall apart as I was playing it. I quite like that. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it's quite fun. Oh, there we go. That's a bit more of an intense hit there from the Combine Advisor, and then we get through to our final section. Now, originally I was going to have. Well, first of all, some people missed the fact that Alex was laying there, which is a bit frustrating. It was difficult to arrange it all so that Alex could be where I needed her to be. In hindsight, I probably should have put her in a cell here, so that when you came over this, and maybe put a wall here, so that you saw her there, and she was laying directly against that. I don't know why. It's just the way things develop. That's how they end up. So, you're not really too sure what to do here, initially. I mean, there's a Combine ball generator, and you can punt it, so why not? That's literally the only action the player can do. I mean, you could run around, explore all of this, but there's nowhere really to go. I don't think my Combine architecture is particularly good. Don't think it looks very Combine-y. Probably could have done better work there. That on-screen, text. I was going to have Alex try and tell us something, but she doesn't have any kind of wording or any kind of noises to make that happen. So I just had to put it on screen, unfortunately. I could have let the player just go and find out for themselves, but it didn't really make much sense. So it's the only way to deliver the objective. I probably could have found another way. Not sure if many people noticed, but the Combine Advisor actually appears on screen. That's a camera running to a monitor, which is filming a Combine Advisor that's actually inside that main rotating section. So I have these screen effects going on a kind of a random timer at the moment, using a Case Logic entity. The Advisor section that follows me around, obviously the Advisor is just a dumb spud. It doesn't do anything. It runs a few animations, and that's about it. In order to make it follow me, I attached this whole section in the middle here, you can see, to a Funk tank, and a Funk tank then made its target entity the player, so it will always follow me around. Slight delay on it, so it's sort of constantly playing catch up with you a little bit. The other thing I'm not sure if people realise is there are 4 lights around the advisor, and as you destroy each of the generators, one of those lights will go out. It's supposed to be like a feedback to tell you how well you're doing and how much you've got to do. It's not very good, doesn't really make sense, but it is there and it is working and it's dynamic. The flashing light is obviously just to let you know where to go. So away we go. Now, many people have commented on these sections that they should have been better, or it's a bit repetitive and bland. I couldn't do much with the tunnel pieces, with the actual main tunnels, because it had to be clutter free or else the striders wouldn't move through it properly. Striders are very, very finicky. I did this, well, I could have done way more detailing, true, but I didn't, so there it is. I like the fact that the player feels quite exposed when they move through these sections, and it's dangerous and you want to get through it as quickly as possible. That was kind of on purpose. I have these striders on aggressive mode. That means they'll kick your ass if you're not careful, which is good because we're at the end, and we're all experienced players, most of us that play this, and it should be difficult as far as I'm concerned. Also, we're kind of in the inner sanctum, so special troops only, in my opinion. Oh, for goodness sake, I'm sucky at this game. Right. Okay, that was obviously fired by a trigger, the screen effect there that we saw, just to remind you that the advisor is watching and we've got this camera which is kind of keeping him up to date as to what we're doing. We can destroy that if we want to. It has no effect on anything, it's just there for fun. The Magnuson device is obviously what a Magnuson device is doing in the middle of a Combine base deep underground. Whatever, I just wanted to use them because they're fun. And we hadn't seen them since episode 2, and I hadn't seen them in any mods either, and I couldn't understand why. It was the best part of episode 2. Anyway, so we did that. A good lesson to learn here as well is that these areas are far too big to have these kind of firefights. You should not be using these kind of areas for fights with troops. It's too far, and you're literally pixel hunting to try and get it right. Okay. And obviously the other thing as well, when you've got such a big area, because you've got these big these big strider tunnels, moving around can get boring. There's a long way to go, and that is kind of a problem, in the fact that a lot of this area is moving around through long, boring tunnels. And I was trying to think, obviously a better way of doing it would have been to reintroduce the car at this point maybe, and I could have driven around the tunnels and had the striders chasing me and stuff like that. I did play with that a bit. It was quite buggy and didn't really seem to do what I wanted. And I'm going the wrong way. This ladder here should have been highlighted better. It blends straight in with the wall, you can't see it. Anyway, it's my lame attempts at detailing here. Just plonking a generator for no reason at all in there. But the nice thing is the generators stand out, so you can actually spot it from quite a long way away. That's deliberate. I put those, there in an eye line so that you could see them, so that you would be in no doubts as to where you were supposed to go. Was the idea. Okay. I'm doing a double soundtrack here as well. I move on to a second track after a little while, just because obviously it's quite a long finale. I think people are quite happy I added the rockets in there. I think that some people really don't like Magnuson devices. This is quite a boring fight, I think. Once again, we're not really, there's not really a huge amount we can do, but they are quite punishing. Painful. Whoa. Oh, nailed. Okay, try that again in a second. Yeah, I did put a save in next to each of these sections, thank goodness. I don't like auto-saves that are too far, that leave the player with too much to do. It's a bad idea. Alright, so let's try this guy again, shall we? Hopefully, you know, even if it is difficult and frustrating at points, it's still always fun. It's not frustrating to the point where you don't want to play it. And once again, I'm down to bugger all ammo. Moved. And I missed. Okay. This isn't going very well. Whatever. Screw it, let's get out of here. Get some more rockets. I could be using energy balls, of course, to destroy this guy, but I'm not. Cheating ways to stand back here so he can't shoot you. We're going to be out of music in a minute if we're not careful. It's taking far too long. There we go, he's gone. Okay. And of course, once again, people said this bit's quite repetitive. The third section isn't much different to the first, unfortunately, which is true. It was difficult because the whole finale section, oh, it went well. You know, you want to create a unique boss fight and something that you can really sort of justify as an ending of such a big mod. And you want it to be worthy of you know, the work that you've done previously, and unfortunately sometimes it's very difficult to do that. I set myself up for a fall by selecting a Combine Advisor as a bad guy because they don't do anything. The actual model itself and the, you know, the character of a Combine Advisor isn't particularly interesting. And of course all of the scripted animation that we've seen before, we've seen. So it's very, very specific to that scenario of when they're in the barn, and okay. And we get our final Strider here. I quite like the idea of fighting from underneath the Strider. I seem to remember that from Half-Life 2, except he hasn't shown up. Yeah, okay, whatever. Sometimes these guys bug out. They are all set to work in a very specific order. If something doesn't quite happen the right way, then it may not show up at all, which is kind of sad. But anyway. But we can get back to here and hopefully destroy our advisor. So as we come through here, this should open. Yep. And of course it sort of leaves the guy. Oh, there we go. You know, the advisor himself doesn't really do anything. I had a test I was doing for this advisor where I was going to get him to pick stuff up and throw it at the player using trigger push, an entity called trigger push, which quite frankly just didn't work. It did work, but in a very, very specific way. And that is all just a whole bunch of jibs that I just fired out from a jib shooter. And that was buggy. She just flipped direction there for no reason at all, and then she comes up. These I didn't turn off either, so it looks like the force field's still on, but you can actually move in.
You might have forgotten about me. Let's head out.
And that's that. So my other hope was that the was that I could end it in a lift heading up to the surface, that we would, find our way out. And it was difficult just because, what's it called? The sort of layout of the final area was difficult to get a lift into. And secondly, not only that, I just was at the end of my tether with it, and I was like, I've got to release this, it's driving me nuts. Which is something that is a recurring theme. It says the adventure continues soon. I am actually working on a follow-up to this. I'm only on the first map though, so it'll probably be a little while, unfortunately, but sit tight and I will get back to you. I hope these videos have been useful and helpful, or entertaining, I don't know. And I'll speak to you soon. Take care.